So the last video you watched was using the scale factor to find the missing parts. We're going to look at those same triangles again and find this missing side length, but this time we're going to use those ratios of the side lengths. We're going to use adjacent sides. Remember that word adjacent just means they're next to each other. So I'm going to look here and find two sides that are adjacent to each other. And I see that I have the short side and I have the middle side here. So if I were to compare that to my smaller triangle, I have my short side and I have my middle side. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my ratios. And one way that helps me is if I were to look at how I'm going to set it up. So I know that I'm going to do my short side. And again, we're going to set it up just like a fraction over top of the middle side. Okay, so the short side and then the middle length side. All right. So I'm going to start with my large rectangle here, and I see that my short side, which is going to go on the top, is 3 centimeters, and my middle side is on the bottom. This is the one I don't know. This is my question mark. This is my X. Okay, I don't know what that equals yet. And then if I look at my ratio over here for my smaller rectangle, my smaller triangle, the one that's similar, I see that my short side's 1 5/10, so 1.5. And my middle side is 5 centimeters. And so what we know about similar figures is that these have to be equal to each other. These two ratios have to make a proportion. I have to solve for this missing piece of the proportion in order for them to be similar. So I can now look at this and figure out what my missing side length is. So since these are equivalent, I just have to figure out, well, what number did I use to go from 1.5 to 3? And I know that that number that I used was 2. I multiplied by 2. So if that's what I did there, then down here, I'm going to have to do the same thing. 5 times 2. And 5 times 2 I know gives me 10. So that missing side length for X is going to be 10 centimeters. And I can double check this by using the calculator and turning these into decimals as I need to. So if I want to look at it, I can take that 1.5 and 5. So I do 1.5 divided by 5, and that gives me 0.3. And then I can look at my other proportion, which I now know is 3 over 10. And you'll see that they are, in fact, equivalent, even if I turn them into decimals. And one other thing I want you to notice here is that when I did this proportion, I set up this proportion, and I found that missing number here. This number up here ends up being my scale factor. So I did find my scale factor as I was doing this as well. So now you have a strategy to use to find missing pieces of a shape when we're looking at using scale factor and looking at the ratios of adjacent side lengths.